Thank you, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer. And I'm happy today, coming after the member for Roxborough Argyll, to start by saying that I am extremely elated that while I have a team that stands and sits on my shoulders, I have always stood on Christ Jesus the rock. And I am thankful that I was never standing on the shoulders of my former political leader, because that was sinking and shifting sand. Because if I was only standing on those shoulders, this team would not be here today. Our presence here is a testament that ultimately Christ Jesus is the rock that we stand on. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I listened carefully to the two members opposite who spoke previously, the minority leader and the member for Roxborough Argyll. I also listened to the excellent contributions coming from this side of the House, and I have some concerns. Some concerns I wish to address before sharing some matters that I have originally penned to speak to the House about. I am concerned that in one instance, the minority leader's instance, we have more or less a presentation that we have heard before, that clearly somebody wrote for the minority leader, and he has no choice but to read. And so notwithstanding the salient points made by the Secretary for Finance, Trade and the Economy, notwithstanding itemizing 44 priority areas, the minority leader spoke to none of those areas, not one of those areas, did not even speak to how these areas will impact the people he represented, because he just simply had to read the script that was emailed or WhatsApp to him this morning from Port of Spain. And then in the other instance, from Roxborough Argyll, we have someone who was clearly not prepared, and so we got a mismatch of a misunderstanding of the correlation between autonomy and self-determination, picking out selectively some areas of the 44. To his credit, he spoke to a few areas of the 44. And amidst all of that, a lot of hot air, but really no substance. And the sad thing is that regardless of which side of this horseshoe you sit, we were all placed in this house because Tobagonians feel as though all of us have a responsibility together to seek Tobago's collective interests. And if that's the kind of preparation we get from the other side for presentation in this house, I think Tobagonians are watching, they are wise, and they will make the right decision when the time comes. I want to correct some misinformation placed in this piece. The minority leader said that business is at an all-time low, things are difficult and hard. Well, I wish to say to the minority leader that I can furnish him with the telephone contact of the Minister of Finance, Minister Imbert in Trinidad, so he can call him up and tell him that he mash up the economy of the entire country of Trinidad and Tobago. And it would appear as though the term or the phrasing of choice is unmitigated gall. But the member had the hypocritical and unmitigated gall to stand here and talk about people in the tourism sector not getting access to Forex, when it was his prime minister, his political leader, after promising to not close down Petrotrin, proceeded to close it down to save his friend from going to jail, and so the country does not get sufficient Forex revenues. And then after doing that, notwithstanding all the excellent proposals that we sent for the country to support the tourism sector in Tobago, which can become a true alternative and provide the kind of forex needed, we get $1 million to market Tobago. Interestingly, the member for Roxborough, Argyll, spoke about Barbados. Barbados is spending $40 million US to market Barbados, and the central government gives us 1 million TT dollars. Let's do that for comparison when we are talking the numbers. I want to go further. The minority leader, who I believe was a director on the TTAL board at some point in the past, as of August 2018, should have known and should know that in order for us to get flights to Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly pays. We pay. And so when we make a request from the Minister of Finance for Tourism, and we get on average about $30 million, that is to pay for those flights, to pay staff, to do marketing, to do all the beautiful things Roxborough Argyll wants us to do in all of those forts around the island, to pay for influencers to come here, to use a myriad of strategies for which the Tobago House of Assembly is just never provided with the resources. And I want to add something else to the mix. In the Caribbean region, there are 2 territories that do not pay for flights: Jamaica and Trinidad. All the other Caribbean territories, including Barbados and Grenada, they enter into agreements, we enter into agreements with foreign airlines in order for flights to come here. So when you see BA land here, we're paying. When Condor lands here, we are paying. And on top of that, I want to share something with this house. We sat in a meeting with Caribbean Airlines, and we came up with an agreement for there to be a direct Toronto to Tobago flight. And notwithstanding it being a national carrier, we agreed that we will pay as we do the foreign entities. Wow. All we have been waiting on is a contract from Caribbean Airlines to finalize and move. And you know what? After we agreed in the room, Caribbean Airlines, in true to form, just went silent and refusing now to give us a contract. And I must ask if that is a cabinet directive. I must ask the members of Parliament for Tobago East and West, who's supposed to be standing in defense of Tobago, if that is something they support. In the same way they supported the culling of the domestic flights between Trinidad and Tobago. Because they know that in the absence of international arrivals, that domestic arrivals have buttressed the economy. And you know what's interesting? Post-COVID, after much begging and so on, and they reopened the flights, we got half of the pre-COVID number of flights. And when we look at the data, with just half of the pre-COVID number of flights, we are doing better on domestic arrivals than when they were in office with double the amount of domestic flights. That should tell you something. It is important to also correct something in this space, because tourism is such a fickle area that you don't want to have publicity in a way that destroys the product. The member for Roxborough Argyll spoke almost disparagingly about the victim of a shark bite. Might be 1 in 100 year in Tobago, but a first for Tobago. And let me tell you how far and wide that went. Earlier this year, the House of Lords, through the Caribbean Council, invited me to an investment forum. The flight I took, or the flight I had took, was KLM. By the time I got to Gatwick, I had no suitcase available for me. So I had to go to the counter to make the claim and to wait. The young lady who was taking the information took my passport, took the form I signed up. And when she saw my address, she said, Wait, that's the same place where Sharp bit a national. In other words, the people there knew.
Member for Roxborough, we are not supposed to clap in the house. Continue, member.
In other words, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the citizens of the UK, our main source market, had that on their news 24/7. They saw the story, and so they too were concerned. So when we were at World Travel Market this year, without invitation from us, without payment or inducement from us, the gentleman shows up with his family to say thank you to the people of Tobago for excellent healthcare, for excellent support. That sends the message that this island is an island that knows how to take care of its visitors. And it also sends the message that regardless of what they say, we can have faith in the healthcare system in Tobago. And then the minority leader also spoke about betrayal of contractors. And that's an interesting one. Because while he's talking betrayal of contractors, I see the Prime Minister friend, one of the contractors that they bat for and defend, just lost in the appeal court for illegal quarrying in Trinidad. And while they talk about betrayal of contractors, that same contractor, after an executive council minute done by former Chief Secretary Hochoy Charles's time, to grant the provision of Green Hill for quarrying, where a fee should be paid, that same Tobago contractor who does pretend to be loyal and patriotic to Tobago, quarry out all the materials and the THN never receive a cent of royalties. So who betrayed who? Who betrayed the people of Tobago in that regard? This government has done some things positively for the people of Tobago that Tobagonians never thought were even possible. And so even with budgetary constraints, this government found a way to improve and increase the limits for social services. We found a way to take the people in CPAP and URP, who are among the lowest paid on the island, and increase their salary without even waiting on Trinidad to do so. We found a way to be able to pay for school feeding at what, $44 million, when we only receive half of that. So all of our children can have access to food. To pay the maxi taxis, they're not even sending enough. And on top of paying them, this administration found a way to give a $25,000 grant to all our maxi taxis to get the maxis up to speed. And that was done to the extent that I received a pre-action protocol letter from one in Trinidad, Mr. Ravi, who has sent everybody pre-action protocol letters, basically saying, how come Tobago maxis get that and Trinidad maxis ain't get that? That is because PNM is not in charge in Tobago, and so you have a government in Tobago that cares about people. You can't get that down in Trinidad. I also want to correct some bits of misinformation from the member for Roxborough, Argyll, who spoke about mega farms. The secretary spoke about mega farming as opposed to mega farms. Mega farms, in the truest definition of the term, cannot work in Tobago given our land size, given our terrain, but we can do mega farming, which is the process of collating or bringing together several holdings from several parts of the island with several farmers to be able to treat with our food productivity or food production issues. That's mega farming. That's the difference. And we are well on our way where that is concerned. I must hasten quickly to address misinformation in the public space about the Goodwood Pavilion, Shallerville Pavilion, and I will also hasten to talk about the Culloden playing field. With regards to Goodwood and Shallerville, in January 2023, Udicott, out of nowhere, after being paid systematically every fiscal, sent to us and said they are no longer going to do those projects. This is January 2023. In other words, they say, do what I want, we stop and we go on. There had to be a handing over process, a legal process by which we reacquired those properties and then re-engage to get those projects restarted. That handing over process started in September last year. As a matter of fact, I want to read on the records this correspondence to which I was CC'd, dated September 18, 2023, just a little over a year ago. And this correspondence says, the Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago Limited wishes to advise that Udicott has established a committee to manage the finalization of the project handover process for the following projects: Bacolet Indoor Sporting Facility, Goodwood Pavilion, Shallerville Community Center and Pavilion, Turpin Bend Infrastructural Upgrade. The Udicott Handover Committee comprises the following persons: Ivan Daly, Achikemba Phillips, Dwayne Murray, and Christine Tahal. In other words, the process to hand over only started in September last year. And it's only in this calendar year that we actually got the projects so that we could go back and execute and finish them. So it's not like this administration got them from Udicott and we just refused to do anything on them. The truth is, Udicott stalled us to this point. And now Udicott is writing for outstanding monies. They want that fast, and they took the dead slow time to hand over the projects. Only this year those projects were duly handed over. As for Culloden, all the way back in 2009, the Tobago House of Assembly started to purchase an estate in Culloden, paid a down payment of $1.9 million or 10% of the estate value for the land. Culloden Golden Land area is one of those areas that the THA does not own land. There aren't state lands in the area. And so to do any sort of public work, we have to acquire real estate. And so we came into office, we saw the matter. The reason for the delay, no fault of the former administration. There was a court case that included the bank, FCB, and that court case only got concluded in late 2022. That court case was concluded at the Privy Council. So you could imagine that case going through the whole system until it got to the Privy Council. When the matter was concluded, I reached out to FCB. I said, look, we are still interested in the property. FCB had two choices: to sell us the property at a new market value, or to give us back our 10% down payment, because a long time had elapsed. However, with successful negotiation, we got FCB to agree to keep the price at the same 19 million that it was in 2009, keep our 10% down payment. We paid the rest, and we have completely purchased that property to the extent that the Tobago House Assembly, unlike in some previous years, actually has a deed in hand to show that we own the property. And the process of land purchasing includes doing the title search, ensuring that everything is okay with the land, getting the deed done, getting it registered, and you know how long it takes now to register a new deed. Again, that's P&M action, why it's taking that long. So the people of Culloden getting a playing field in this is because this administration was diligent enough, caring enough to say, let's acquire real estate and give the people of Golden Lane, Lekoto, something to be proud of. Give them some access. And then, final thing I want to correct is the minority leader spoke about contractor in Argyll being Trinidadian. In fact, he spoke about two things about the contractor in Argyll. One, there are two projects occurring in Argyll as we speak. Two multi-million-dollar projects occurring in your area, Roxborough, Argyll. One is the existing Lamy Road. That project that environmental leader claims.
Remember, turn back on your mic.
Sorry, so I didn't realize the mic came off. Yes, that contract, the minority leader claims that that contractor can't finish the work. It's not the contractor can't finish the work. The contractor did the bridge, did the draining, has prepared the road, but the contractor essentially is sort of trying to time the final leg of that project, which is paving that road, with the farmlands development that the Office of the Chief Secretary is doing and that is nearing completion. That is one. The second deliberate lie being told is that that contractor was issued a design-build contract by settlements. That is untrue. It is not a design-build finance modality. It is actually a public-private partnership modality. And it is one where the firm builds the homes, the THA pays the firm absolutely nothing, and the firm benefits from the THA database to be able to pick persons to give the units. The persons who are awarded units or homes, they will pay directly to the contractor for the homes, and it's just that in the arrangement, the THA locks the contractor in or locks the firm in to a reasonable price so that the people on our database can actually afford it. When you look at what is given to settlements, how much houses could build there? The ministry in Trinidad is given hundreds of millions. Hundreds of millions. On the DP vote. Settlements? 2 million to be able to build homes. 2 million. You know what construction prices in Tobago are like? What construction material prices in Tobago are like? And so, I think the minority leader mixed up the two contractors in Argyll. Because there's a second contract in Argyll, that's farmlands development, and the farmland development vote has always been under Office of the Chief Secretary. And so we looked last fiscal, well, we started in 2022 to design the project, and at the town hall meeting we held in Roxborough, this is something I spoke to the people about, and that project is well underway. That's a $28 million project, for which Mr. Owen Smith, who is Tobagonian, is actually doing that project. And this is not a design-build finance. This is design-build and we pay. They were given mobilization, they've been paid intermittently as per the contract. There's not even design-build finance. And in that project, it will be the most sustainable farmland development project in the entire country. I visited it some weeks ago. And the next time I'm visiting, I will invite the member for Roxborough, Argyll, so you can see what nice things look like. And when I visited, each of the farming lots already had kiosks already installed with their own solar panels, with their own batteries retaining energy, the ability to plug in a refrigerator 24/7 to use power tools. Every individual farm had their own kiosk. Solar panels along the roadway. Drainage completed. They did a detention pond completed. They're just about to drill 2 wells. WASA is coming in to run the lines. And so WASA indicated where the sleeves have to go. And so the next phase is concreting that road. That will bring us to the existing Lamy Road, which will then be paved. And so the people of Argyll will benefit from 2 multi-million-dollar projects in their area. And I want to go further. I thought the Secretary for Infrastructure would have done that. Go further and explain why this design-build modality is one of the options utilized.
Remember, you have 5 minutes of speaking time.
So, no problem. It's being utilized. When you have a system where you have scarcity of resources, You have to find somebody who have the capital to invest. The government then takes a longer and slower time to pay back. And that person who is investing must come with capital and engage Tobago's smaller contractors who will benefit from doing work as subcontractors with monies that the government just doesn't have. So when you're looking at projects, 70 million and so forth, design, build, finance, and when you look at a project through friendship, where over 80% of the content is local Tobagonian, the people who pave the roads, all of that, local Tobagonian, then you can't begin to quantify how they benefited from external finances coming into the Tobago space. The THA, as a matter of fact, ain't paid them nothing yet. Because the project has to be completed. Because it's design, build, finance. But in the time I have, I want to speak to about 3 or 4 areas. One, in the upcoming fiscal under the Office of the Chief Secretary, we will accelerate our digitization program. We started with e-tender platform. You will hear from the Secretary of Health how our social services are moving in that light. We are in the testing phase whereby all of our executive council and all of our minutes and so forth is completely on digital platforms. This Assembly Legislature has almost completed, about 80% complete with the digitization of the records of this House. And we are just getting started with digitizing our HR and accounts platforms. That is critical for efficiency in the Tobago space. Secondly, because the Office of the Chief Secretary, through the Chief Administrator, has responsibility, devolved responsibility for HR matters within the public service. And I know the member for Roxbury will love this, because I think sometimes he gets nostalgic about his days in the union. I know you will love this. But because OCS has a singular and signal responsibility for the public service on the island, we have developed a program called Public Officer Subsidized Housing, or POSH. And this is designed that will be able to take the internal clients or the workers, the public officers of the THA, out and away from the settlement platform where we have a tonload of thousands of people applying, and treat the public officers in a special way. We have a situation where if you are working in settlements, for example, you can't get in, you can't apply. And so you are there helping people get grants, helping people get house, helping people get land, but you could never ever apply yourself, and you're in need. And so this takes care of them. And that's important because we believe a motivated workforce will lead to greater efficiencies in this space, greater productivity. We also have, under OCS, the Autonomy Project. And member for Roxbury Argyll, please, I am begging you, stop mixing up the correlation between autonomy and self-determination. They are inextricably linked. They are not two terms so separate from each other that there is no relation. You said it yourself, that Tobago right now, from this House, can't just determine for itself what type of government we want or how we should be governed. That is done in Trinidad. You know what that means? We don't have the autonomy to have self-determination. Autonomy precedes self-determination. And so what we really want out of our MPs in Trinidad, and I realize, again, nice campaign from your Roxbury Argyll, like you made a pitch for your own candidacy in Tobago East. What we really want from MPs down in Port of Spain is that push for Tobagonians to be given the wherewithal, to be given the autonomy to actually decide for ourselves what we want. And that's why I've said that maybe we should reconsider having all of those things in the bill and having a leaner, slimmer bill that really just gives Tobago the authority or the autonomy we want, and we come home to our people, we campaign actively, Three parties, we campaign, and Tobagonians decide who have the better plan and go with that. And that is self-determination in action. So when we use the two terms, it's not to confuse anybody, it's because they are related. One is mother and one is son. They are inextricably linked. So stop trying to make it look as though they are so distant from each other.
Your speaking time has elapsed. Member, the same coverage that you would like for yourself, I wish to extend it, please.
You want to stand on my shoulder?
Deputy Presiding Officer, I beg to move that the speaking time for the member for Palateville Lansome Speyside be extended by a further 10 minutes.
Members, the question is that 10 minutes of additional speaking time be given to the member for Palateville Lansome Speyside. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. Member, you have 10 minutes of additional speaking time.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer. But as we're talking about this autonomy question, just this morning, while this House was sitting and getting started, I was there sitting in with the attorneys at the Privy Council. Because the question that came before the Privy Council for the THA today, 5 hours away from where we are, is the question surrounding Milshelve and who has right to do what. And in that court case, what is essentially being interrogated is really the fact that Tobago has limited autonomy. Bad deal aside, that was a horrible deal. That was a stupid deal. That was a deal designed to give PNM financiers money. But bad deal aside, the matter we were interrogating this morning before the Privy Council, as I sat there, listened to the attorneys, and exchanges are happening between the senior state counsel and myself, and we were just looking at the case and doing our best to see if we could get a ruling in our favor, notwithstanding it's an inherited case. Is really this question of Tobago once and for all getting not just office, but the power to actually govern ourselves. And I want to be categorically clear about this autonomy project, that there are 4 areas the bills before Parliament must have, or else they will be rejected. Those 4 areas are: 1, there must be equality of status between the island of Trinidad and the island of Tobago, and we want that stated clearly in the Constitution, so that we will not be a ward of anybody anyway. Number 2, there must be an acceptable, internationally recognized definition of what is Tobago, and that can't be what the AG or what some minister in Trinidad feel Tobago should be defined as. That must include our 116 square miles, the body of water, or the marine space surrounding Tobago, or that marine space that Tobago brings to the archipelagic state called Trinidad and Tobago. It must also include our airspace. Regardless of where the jurisdiction of a new Tobago House of Assembly will lie, there must be a proper, acceptable definition of Tobago in the law. To not do so, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, and to proceed to tell Tobagonians this is all you are responsible for, is to inadvertently say to the rest of the country that what is not stated as Tobago is Trinidad's. And that is an error that we will not accept. The third area is that we're looking for a federal type system. By the way, these 4 areas, I didn't come up with them. These 4 areas came out of a statement made in the Parliament by the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, when he set the Joint Select Committee into motion to look over the Orwellian bills. So the third area is a federal type system. 2 states, 1 union. Nothing less. The member for Roxford Argyll clearly has other ideas, and I would love to know if the member for Roxford Argyll did any survey with Tobagonians, or what consultations with Tobagonians he's relying on for this premise that maybe we could be an associate state, and maybe we could decide for ourselves if we want to go independent. Because the thing about self-determination is that it comes in degrees. People could decide practically what levels that they want. But what we're relying on is the fact that Tobago not so long ago had the most extensive set of consultations. It's PNM do the consultations in Tobago under former chief secretary. And then now, we're in 2024, they're looking to turn their back on what Tobagonians said they want. They set up a constitutional committee to Tobago that the prime minister picked. And after Tobagonians tell the committee what they want, they still go back to Trinidad and trying to push and force on Tobago what Tobagonians never said they want. So Tobagonians have always looked for a federal type system. And there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We heard about Nova Scotia from out of Canada this morning. You could go to the UK with the model of devolution of powers. Right here in the Caribbean, in the Commonwealth Caribbean, St. Kitts Nevis. Nevis has a state government. They have a federal system there. There's no need to invent the wheel. And so this notion that you're asking for too much, wait, we go figure it out as we go along. Come on. Since 1977, we had the first motion in the parliament about this matter. If you go and read Robinson's speech, member for Roxburgh Argyll, it is literal and based on the premise that every Tobagonian has as a human right, the right to self-determination. We are here, approaching 44 years of the THA, and we're still making noise for the same things that were posited since 1977. And you know why? It's because the only time really and truly when Tobago gets any movement on this autonomy question is when PNM not in power in Tobago. Tobago had to vote out PNM and send Robinson and Murray down there. And in 1996 again, it was not PNM. They had to send two representatives that were not PNM. So if Tobago want to get anywhere with this autonomy thing, they need to change who down in Port of Spain. Because sending dumb dogs to Port of Spain cannot help Tobago. And the fourth area that the bills must have is that the bills must give Tobago and Tobagonians responsibility to formulate and to implement policy on all matters affecting our way of life. We're not interested in trying to affect the way of life of Trinidadians. Their central government will do that for them. But we want, in the same way, we could give grants in areas that don't exist in Trinidad. We want to impact our people's lives in the most positive manner. And what is painful, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, is after we sat in this house, we were on the other side, three of us on the other side. Roxburgh Argyll, I'm so sorry that you jumped off the ship. You chose to jump off the ship. The anchor didn't hold you. But we sat in this house and all of us unanimously agreed to send a bill down to Parliament. Right? And although we on the minority side felt this ain't going nowhere, we said, listen, it's a good thing. Tobago needs to manage its own marine parks. We have a tourism product that is hinged on sustainability. Let me send this bill down. We will give them the support. We gave them the support. I could tell you, I went down to Buku, talk to the fishermen. Some of the fishermen and them hated some aspect of the bills. We had to try to talk to them, coax them over, look at some of the issues they have, come to the house, debate the issue. We sent the bills down to Parliament. That was November 2021. We are now in November 2024. And up to now, the bill can't make the Parliament floor. Clearly, Tobago business is not priority for the national government. And so if we have to treat with the issues that are important to Tobagonians, then we have to do it ourselves. We have to have the autonomy or the power or the authority to do it ourselves. We can't depend on them. And clearly, we can't depend on PNM either.
Remember, you have 3 more minutes.
That's right. And so, Deputy Presiding Officer, when we send and we ask and we say, look, You know what is important for us in education? Having a new Scarborough Secondary School. The school going away in the sea. We brought in Caribbean Development Bank. Well, they recommended we work with Caribbean Development Bank. We looked at the different sites. We had a recommendation of which site is better for the school. We developed an end-user brief that included the teachers, students, parents, all kind of fancy things. CDB come back and say, well, we feel comfortable we could give you a 500 million as a loan to be able to handle the billing of Scarborough Secondary School, a smart school. When we went to the Minister of Finance, he said, look, we just build school in Trinidad for 250 million. I can't agree with CDB and taking a loan from CDB for 500 million. I said, Minister, we can't build a school in Tobago for 250 million. Cost of construction is higher in Tobago. So if you want to build it and fund it yourself, you have to go up on the amount. I said, meet you at least 300 million or so, right? And we had verbal agreement. We're preparing the land and doing everything. You know how much is sent to build Scarborough Secondary School? And I want the parents and the teachers and the students of Scarborough Secondary, the alumni, to know that when they see them where people walking around in their place, ask them where the money for Scarborough Sec. $500,000 to build a new school. 500,000. So our children ain't good enough to get a proper school. The size, that acreage, we're close to 27 acres. That money can't even fence that. The most you could do with that is try to do some land development work with that. And that is the kind of treatment that we have received. We go again, we're supposed to receive grant funding from IDB. Grant funding. A letter was sent from IDB to the Ministry of Housing, dated June 25th, 2024. And in that letter, they just asked for a non-objection letter from the ministry. And they wanted a non-objection letter by July 1st, my birthday. Today is now what? The 28th of November. And up to now, the ministry refused to do the non-objection letter. We can't even get a grant. That is what P&M stopped. And Secretary of Finance, I want to close by telling you this. You see, the monies that Stuart Young going up and down, trying to get some ITOF.
You can't refer to the ministers by his name.
You can't refer to?
And your speaking time has elapsed.
All right. Don't expect that money, yeah? Because P&M wicked.